Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar for the Insight sessions for Stratum. And today we are going to talk about the Stratum connectors, the add-ins for both Excel and Power BI. So how could you essentially use these tools to connect to your Stratum environment, the Data Hub? So that's essentially our topics for today. So we'll talk, obviously a refresher on what the Stratum Data Hub is. We'll talk a little bit about Power BI and using the connector to connect to Power BI. Leveraging some of the Stratum data and the views that you have within the Stratum environment. And then we'll talk about Excel and using the add-in for using Excel to grab the data directly from Stratum as well. And then we'll do a demo and we'll show you both of these add-ins, and we'll take any questions for the topics. Well, this is it, the Stratum Data Hub. And essentially what this does is it gives you a picture of the entire application of Stratum and the different areas of access and the different areas of feeding data into Stratum. And then obviously all the application content. As you can see, the Access Hub allows us to use the add-ins. So for licensed for the Stratum Access Hub, we're able to use the Excel add-in. We're able to use the Power BI connector, among other things. As you can see, you can also use the broadcast engine for sending out email reports. And there's a couple other items there. Forecasting is available. And so you have these different ways of getting data out of Stratum. And as you can see, there's different ways on the left-hand side of getting data into Stratum. And we certainly have some sessions that deal with those topics as well. So you might want to check out our YouTube channel or soban.com to see some of the archived sessions on some of those topics. But today we'll be focusing on the Stratum Access Hub, and then we'll focus in on the Excel add-in and the Power BI connector. What is Power BI? It's a Microsoft product. It's a visualization tool. It's quite powerful. You do have the ability to create professional looking dashboards in minutes. You can use data sets, something as simple as Excel spreadsheets, or you can tap into databases. And essentially we've created a connector that makes it easier for you to tap into the Stratum data. But as you can see, it's a complete solution here. It's a powerful solution. There's a free version, there's a licensed version. So it kind of depends on how far you want to get into it and how deep you want to use Power BI within your enterprise. But yeah, I mean, it's a very popular tool. There's a big community out there for Power BI, and certainly it's something that we thought would be beneficial. We've already had some of our customers request it, so it just made sense for us to embrace it and make it possible for you to use it with Stratum. So we try to make it as easy as possible. Obviously, it's easy to use for building reports. We know that it's cost effective. Certainly, you could effectively use the free version to a certain degree and be happy with that. Although you'll probably need to license it eventually, depending on how deep you want to get into it. The customizations are top notch. I think they're easy to edit. There is a bit of a learning curve for Power BI, but it's not that crazy. There's also a library of custom visualizations. You can build your own. And essentially, if you want to display the data differently, the Stratum environment and the user interface for Stratum, well, it's a great interface, but it's only going to take you so far in terms of using stuff like gauges or spark lines and some of the new like cards. And you'll see some of these as I'll show you the demo, but these are some of the newer visualizations that you can leverage for Stratum using the Power BI interface. So the concept here would be, obviously you could use the Power BI desktop, and there is a free version. So certainly you can download that today and start dealing and teaching yourself a little bit of some of the concepts of Power BI. You will need the Power BI connector. It's a small download. It's a very easy install, but once you have that piece, then you can tap into the views that you have within Stratum. So definitely, want to get that piece of code. If you're licensed for it, you definitely want to download that and make sure that you have that piece. And then once you have that, then you're able to connect to the Stratum viewer interface, which then allows you to tap into the views within viewer. Pretty simple concept. Once you get into the Power BI desktop and you start tapping into those views, as you can see within the slide here, we can see that we're tapping into some views there after we've made our connection to the viewer interface. It then treats the views just like a data source, just like any other data source within Power BI, whether it's coming from a database table or an Excel spreadsheet, or in this case, a viewer view, where it behaves a lot like a table. And as you can see on the right-hand side, it's very tabular. So tapping into those views, as you can see now, I'm completely, once I've made that connection to the view, and yes, I can use multiple views. So you might have a number of views that you want to use to tap into for these visualizations. And here's where it gets fun. I think it's great. I just can't say how much fun I've had learning this tool. And in all honesty, it's so easy to use that it's just fun to use. And the more you learn, the easier some of the concepts get. I can't sit here and say that I pick up everything right away. No, there is a learning curve. But once you get some of the concepts and learn some of the advanced concepts, you're off and running essentially. So I built this particular dashboard, basically just by using the Stratum Power BI connector. And as you can see, I can leverage the cards. I can multiple graphs, leveraging some of the multiple axes graphs, line graphs, area graphs where I can see trends over time, comparative graphs, heat maps, all kinds of things that, basically that will extend your visualization for your Stratum data. So again, once you make the connection, it's pretty easy to do. And I guess probably the biggest learning curve you'll have is figuring out some of the fantastic visualizations that Power BI provides. So that's the Power BI piece. Let's talk a little bit about Excel. And we saw this article not too long ago where Excel's not going anywhere. So essentially, you've got this headline saying, "Hey, you've got people out there trying to replace Excel with new tools, and guess what? It's just not working out well because people are just using Excel, and they'll continue. Financial analysts, business analysts, we know that they're going to continue to use Excel." So in the same vein as Power BI, we felt the need to embrace Excel more, give financial analysts more of a warm and fuzzy about using Excel as their front end, giving database analyst or the business analysts warm and fuzzies about using Excel, just to grab data down and just get data into Excel where they feel more comfortable. They might feel more confident, and they can download accurate and reliable data from Stratum and take the confidence and take that further. So essentially the same concept here, right? So you have the Excel interface. There is an add-in that you will need to download from the Microsoft App Source. And you can do that right within the Excel spreadsheet, and I'll show you how. And that connector then, again, similarly to the Power BI connector, that allows you to tap into the views within Stratum. And again, in the same vein, you tap into those views, and then you download the views to one Excel spreadsheet, or certainly you can tap into more than just one view and download multiple spreadsheets. We know that Excel is pretty ubiquitous throughout the enterprise, so everybody pretty much has access to Excel. It makes it kind of cost effective to a certain degree. We know that the Excel is very customizable. It's got visualization tools, maybe not as strong as Power BI, but very, very strong. So it's a very powerful interface. But again, probably the most probably the most important thing here is that it's so ubiquitous. It's so everyone uses it, right? So we need to embrace that. So again, kind of similarly, what I did with Power BI, I was able to, in Excel, use the connector, build a very quick pivot table, build some comparative graphs, build a heat map. And yes, Excel has these types of visualizations. So, you know, if you're using a more current version of Excel, you're going to be able to build really incredible looking visualizations just right within Excel. So you have those pieces available to you as well within the Excel interface. So you've got the Power BI, you've got the Excel connectors. Let's dive a little deeper. We're going to take a minute to transition over to a demo, and we'll take a look at some of this live and in action. But before we do that, again, my name is Adam Kurtz. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions about anything regarding Stratum. I am the Customer Success Director, and certainly feel free to contact me again regarding anything about Stratum. And if you want to learn more about these connectors and how to access them, feel free to contact me. As you can see, there's my email address and my phone number. So you got me pegged. Okay, so let's take a look at some of this. I guess we could start out with the Power BI interface. Here I've got it live and running right here. Here's the Power BI desktop that I'm using. And if you're not familiar with Power BI, you've got this designer area here within the mainframe area. And to the right are different menu tabs, if you will. You've got the access to the visualization. So if I want to add another visualization, I can do that from this field here or this menu here. Any properties to those visualizations can be controlled down here. And then there's my views. I've got, as you can see, I'm tapped into 3 views there from Stratum. And I'm using, you know, some Power BI views that have already been constructed within the viewer interface. So how did I get these views? Now, how do I tap into the interface? Well, for Power BI, you know, you've got this concept of get data, you know, so once you click on that, it'll then ask you to choose a method of getting data into Power BI. So it then gives you this get data menu, right? And then you need to make a selection as to how you're going to connect to Stratum. Well, with Power BI, as you can see, you've got a lot of choices here. And down here, if I go to other and I've already got the connector installed, I will have an option called Solve on Stratum Views. So if I select that and click on connect, it'll then connect to the Stratum. It'll ask for the URL. And here's where you can type in the URL to Stratum. I'm just going to copy it from my desktop and my address area. And then all I would need really is that piece right there. So there's the URL to my Stratum environment. And I'm going to click OK. And it's going to make a connection to the Stratum environment. There it goes. It's now connecting, opening up the navigator, and we are connected. So here are all the views. Each view has its own folder. So I can just scroll down and see all the views that are available within my Stratum environment. Now, if I'm looking for something, I can actually type it in. And so if I'm looking for a view that maybe has the keywords of Power BI or PBI, then I can actually go straight to the views that I'm looking for to bring into the Power BI interface. So if I select, for instance, my comparative sales view, I can then select it. It'll then show me a preview of the data within that view. And this is what the data source will look like if I bring that into Power BI. And this looks good. I mean, this is what I want. I can then bring that in to Power BI by clicking on the load button, and it will then load that into Power BI and then make that view available, as we can see here on the right-hand side. So now I've got the view available that I've just imported from Stratum, and now everything's pretty much all the fields within that view are now drag and droppable within my Power BI interface. So for instance, if I wanted to, maybe shrink down some of these visualizations and add another one. So I'll just maybe shrink this one down a little bit. And so now I got a little room here to the right. I'm going to add in a pie chart. So as you can see, I select the pie chart in my visualization area of Power BI, and then now all I need to do is feed it some data. And it could be as simple as maybe doing a year-to-date sales amount. I'll drag and drop that over. And then I can do that by a summary level or a dimension level. So it might be, maybe product brand might be something that the long description for product brand, and I'll dump that down in there. So it could be as simple as that. I mean, as I take that away and I get rid of some of these menus, we can see what the full visualization might look like. And, it needs a little work. I can then go in and start doing some cleanup. Sorry about that. And, there's menus here where I can go in and start going in and if I go into the visualization tool here, I can then highlight that and go into some of my properties here and start clicking on the properties menu here and check it out. I've got a lot of properties here I can go into for this visualization. So a lot of customization options for that, just for that pie chart alone, right? I can change the background. I can give it a title. I can do a lot of things here. So very cool. There's the title itself. I can, if I wanted to make the title more prominent, I can then go in and give it a font color that maybe pops a little bit better. I can make the font size bigger, by increasing the font. And as you can see, it's now doing that up there in my visualization. Maybe I want to make the title a little bit smaller so that it looks better, and so on and so forth. So, and I can then drag, stretch that out a little bit and align my visualizations accordingly. So, and as you can see, just within a couple of seconds, couple of minutes, I'm got a pie chart, pretty cool looking. I can then save that and then deploy that back up to the cloud or keep it here, whatever your context is here. But I can publish this then to the cloud and then make it available to the enterprise, and then everyone can then tap into it and gain access to it. So, so that's kind of a quick, lesson on what you can do with Power BI. As you can see, I can tap into Stratum directly by using the Power BI interface. There's one other thing I can do here as well, and that's this this drill through visualization. So if you notice, I can I've got that right over here, where I can then configure this so that if I pick a rep here on the right or left-hand side, such as maybe Patrick Hurley, and in Power BI, when you select something, it affects the visualizations and shows you what Patrick Hurley is doing with the business in the visualization. So I can see that Patrick here is selling a lot of Farm Fresh and First Choice, a little bit of other brands, but those are the brands that he's really honed in on. But Power BI, it's only going to over here to the right, but the card is telling me his year-to-date sales is 1 million. He's got a rolling 3-month sales of 408,000. His current month sales are 106,000. So you've got, and that's a rolling 3-month total of 400,000. How do I get more? This is only going to show me so much, right? Power BI is going to only take you so far. And that's why we gave you the drill through button. So I can click on that and it will then drill me to viewer, and it will show me for Patrick Hurley what his numbers are. Notice that here on the view filter is Patrick Hurley. And now I can then drill and drill into, obviously I can see that he's in the grocery division. So if I drill to sold to, I can see that he's selling to Wilder. Here's his accounts. Here I can see that these are the product brands that he's selling, and I'll sort that in descending fashion. So now I'm in, and indeed the visualization did tell us that Farm Fresh and First Choice he was selling the heck out of, and that certainly is the case here. Most of his revenue coming in is from those brands. So we know that what's really driving his business, where, for what accounts, This is fantastic. I mean, this is exactly what you want, is this ability to drill to further detail. And in order to configure that, it's so easy. So being able to pop that drill through in and make that available within the visualization lets the user gain more, lets them get more devil in the details, if you will, because it's always in the detail. And then this gives them the ability to drill into further detail and to get down to the invoice if they need to, by taking them into the Stratum interface. So that's really, really cool. I love that piece. That visualization works well, and it really will give your users an avenue to get more detail out of Stratum from the Power BI visualizations. So let's pop over to Excel. How can we use Excel similarly, and do the same things with Excel? Well, if you notice, if I open my Excel workbook, I've got a Stratum menu here. And once the add-in has been loaded, I can then take advantage of the Excel add-in. And the same concept here is, again, I can then connect to Stratum, enter the URL, and then search for my views that I've designed for Excel. And there's comparative sales, there's sales analysis trend. I mean, so if I wanted to open up a new sheet and bring in comparative sales and insert that data into this sheet, then I can go ahead and select that view, click on insert, and insert the data from comparative sales into that particular spreadsheet. And then once it populates the data, it then populates the data into my spreadsheet. And then I can build any visualizations off of that. So here's the data from that particular view. And then I've got another sheet over here where I've built a pivot table off of that. I've got a heat map for all the different stores or the different states or the countries. And I've got down here a comparative sales view graphic by state. Over here on the right, I've got some slicers going on. So if I select the slicers, I can see by division, how the business is doing. So I can do a lot of really cool things here. So a lot of cool things with the Excel spreadsheet. I can tap into the data, get that data, bring that into my spreadsheet, tap into those views the same way I've done that with using my Power BI connector and bringing that data into the Excel spreadsheet, as you can see, as a snap. I can bring more data in. Maybe if I want to bring another view in and select that view, and then have that view brought into the Excel spreadsheet. So now I'm bringing in different pieces of data, another view of data that's being brought into Excel as well. So you can tap into these views, start bringing that data into your spreadsheet, and start building these visualizations directly from that spreadsheet without even having to go into the Stratum interface. And really just tapping into the data directly by using Power BI or the Excel spreadsheet. So I'm just gonna go ahead and open this up for any questions. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions or ask away. Does anybody have any questions? Don't be shy.